What does the future hold? In these uncertain, turbulent times, it's a more pressing question than ever before. Arriving at a single certain answer is, of course, impossible, but we can make informed predictions. So, what is life like in 2030? In a word, different. Over the next 10 years, rising temperatures will threaten our predominantly urban, coastal way of life. A low birth rate combined with higher life expectancy will make baby boomers into a powerhouse demographic. And some national economies will stagnate, while others will unexpectedly thrive. To anticipate the challenges and embrace the opportunities the next decade will bring, you'll need to be informed about what the future holds. Since the 1970s, women in the US have had, on average, fewer than 2 children each. In other words, fewer than necessary to replace the current generation. But our current economic system relies on the next generation to care for the elderly and foot the bill for pensions through their taxes. Now, all over the world, from Brazil to Japan, governments are questioning who, exactly, will support their aging populations in the coming decades. Why is the birth rate declining? Well, these days women are more active in the workforce, so they're likely to defer starting a family until they're established in their chosen field. Fertility declines with age, so women who start their families later in life tend to have fewer children. Not every country's birth rate is on the decline. The African continent has a current population of 1.3 billion. That's projected to rise to 2 billion by 2038 and 3 billion by 2061, with a boom concentrated in the sub-Saharan region. The African baby boom will have 2 key flow-on effects. First, sub-Saharan Africa relies on imported food. As its population grows, the markets for feeding and developing agriculture in the region will grow too, potentially becoming a $1 trillion sector, according to the World Bank. Second, many Western nations will need to rethink their hardline stances on immigration. They may soon be dependent on immigrant workers from the global south to fund and care for their swelling ranks of retirees. Currently, people 60 years and older, that's baby boomers born between 1944 and 1964, and the silent generation born between 1925 and 1943, hold over half of the world's wealth. By 2030, there'll be another 400 million more people in the 60-plus age bracket worldwide. This cohort is predicted to retire later than its predecessors, meaning they'll accrue even more wealth. To maintain the economy and stay in business, corporations need to tap this spending power. Surprisingly, they seldom do. In fact, 96% of UK nationals over the age of 50 report feeling ignored by corporations and advertisements. To capitalize on this demographic shift, businesses need to speak to the 60-plus cohort in a targeted, aspirational way and tailor products and services to them. Unfortunately, they're not an easy market to court. Their age means they've likely seen it all when it comes to advertising. Anticipating their changing needs and preferences will pay off, though. There's a market, for example, for fashionable shoes that offer orthopedic support, and for stylish appliances modified to suit changing physical capabilities. A front-loading washing machine might be manageable for a user in his 70s, but impossible for that same user once he's in his 80s. The lesson is simple. To take care of the economy, take care of seniors. Many traditional middle-class jobs have been automated or outsourced. But that's not the case everywhere. Over 100 million people join the middle classes each year, and by 2030, the middle classes in Asia, excluding Japan, will account for half of global consumer spending power. In 2030, we'll essentially see a tale of 2 middle classes unfolding. In Asia and the developing world, the middle classes will be booming. Meanwhile, companies based in the developing world, like Chinese e-commerce site Alibaba or ride-sharing platform Didi, will be poised to become global powerhouses. Unless US and European companies that want to crack those same markets can adjust to the culturally inflected preferences of this new middle class, however, their outlook is far bleaker. Walmart's entry into the developing world illustrates the dangers of an unthinking expansion into a new market. In South Korea, the supermarket chain sold bulk packaged items, apparently unaware of the Korean consumer's preference for purchasing in smaller quantities. In Brazil, where there are no ski slopes to be found, they sold skis. Needless to say, Walmart's expansion was not a success. While the emergent middle classes will become wealthier, they're also predicted to accrue more debt as they acquire the typical middle-class trappings of home and car and display their status through luxury goods. In the US and Europe, however, the middle classes may continue to shrink. According to the Pew Research Center, in 1971 there were 80 million US households considered middle class, while 52 million were either wealthy, working class, or impoverished. In 2015, there were 121.3 million middle-class households, while 120.8 million households were not. So while there are technically more middle-class households, proportionally the middle class has shrunk dramatically. Well, come 2030, women will hold more than half the world's wealth for the first time, and global spending habits will change as a result. Spending will likely increase in sectors such as education, healthcare, and insurance, where women have typically been bigger spenders than men. In investing, women will lead the trend for safer investments, like indexed stock funds. Currently, women are active in the workforce but still face significant obstacles to advancement and wealth. If a woman is also a primary caregiver, she can expect to lose a few years of work and lose out on the corresponding salary. Thanks to our aging population and low birth rate, the pool of qualified workers will shrink. That means businesses will rely on working mothers more than ever. In fact, this is already happening in Japan, a country with one of the world's lowest birth rates. For years, highly qualified Japanese women were tacitly expected to leave their jobs after they had children. Now they're returning to the workforce because there simply aren't enough young workers to take their places. A record 71% of working-age women in Japan are now in full-time employment. And it seems that this shift in gender power dynamics is one we'll be ready for. We're increasingly positively disposed toward women in positions of power. In 1953, Gallup asked survey respondents if they would prefer a male boss or a female boss. 66% preferred a male boss. A mere 4% preferred a female boss. Gallup has posed this question every year since then. In 2017, 23% preferred a male boss and 21% preferred a female boss, while the remainder were neutral. Cities are warming at faster rates than rural areas thanks to their high concentrations of concrete and asphalt. These materials trap heat, which in turn increases global warming. They're also hubs for consumption, construction, and traffic. In fact, the globe's cities are responsible for 75% of energy use and 80% of carbon emissions. Climate change will undoubtedly be felt more keenly in cities. Cities account for only 1% of the world's land, yet 55% of the world's population lives in them. Moreover, 75% of cities are on or near a coast, making them vulnerable to rising sea levels. Asian mega-metropolises like Jakarta and Bangkok are especially at risk. Elsewhere, Venice, New Orleans, and Miami face immediate threat. The good news is that if city dwellers make a few small adjustments to their behavior, they can bring about change for the better. Cities can incentivize their citizens to make more eco-minded choices. Credit card facilities on buses and cheaper fares, for example, would make public transport not just an eco-friendly choice, but a cheap and convenient one too. Another solution could be cities growing their own food. Urban agriculture can diminish the carbon footprint that comes from transporting food into urban centers and bolsters urban greenery, which in turn soaks up more carbon emissions. And the next potential revolution in currency is already well underway. By 2030, cryptocurrencies may have moved from the fringe to the mainstream. Bitcoin is issued and dispersed completely online through a peer-to-peer system. It's not affiliated with any government or bank. A record of each transaction made with Bitcoin is accessible online in the form of a blockchain. A block is a recorded transaction. Strung together, these transactions form an encrypted blockchain. There are no gaps in the blockchain. The code makes that impossible. And if any block is tampered with, this becomes immediately apparent. The blockchain system, according to crypto enthusiasts, makes Bitcoin and other such cryptocurrencies the most secure form of currency in the world. Up to now, though, most people haven't been tempted to part with their bank accounts and switch to crypto. Bitcoin's valuation is constantly fluctuating. In 2017, one Bitcoin was worth $20,000. That same Bitcoin a year later, $2,500. But blockchain technology could revolutionize the way we perform all kinds of transactions. When a contracted supplier completes his work, he could simply activate a code that triggers an automatic crypto payment to his account. A government could automatically deduct its share of tax from every crypto transaction. This might help us spend more ethically too. Dexio, for example, is an app that uses blockchain technology to track transactions of diamonds so consumers can avoid purchasing blood diamonds. This same technology could be used to bolster the security of e-voting or minimize online piracy of intellectual property. If you access music, television, or a book online, a direct payment could be made to its creator. There are all kinds of applications for cryptocurrency technology if we can only embrace it. The next decade will bring big changes to the world we live in. Some, like the impending climate crisis and an aging global population, will present challenges. Others, like the rise of the sharing economy, cryptocurrency, and innovations in technology, will present opportunities. With preparation, we can overcome the former and embrace the latter. Businesses are often tempted to diversify in order to future-proof themselves. They should be careful not to lose sight of their mission when they do.